was something, I've been saving this. There was something quite interesting that caught my eye. A report that came out from the CDC that was all over the news, interspersed in between all of the bull crap about stirring up racism in America. I don't know if you've seen this report, John. The CDC released a report that stated that 1 in 88 children in the United States of Gitmo Nation has autism.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I'm like, wow, let me dive into this. And so I have the report, and all of the, in fact, there's a whole, it's under vaccines, obviously. There's an entire listing in the show notes, 396 on anyshownotes.com, which includes the actual CDC report. And I noticed something new, and I have some data to back it up. They've changed the definition of this disease from autism to the autism spectrum disorder. And this is very significant. But first, let me bring you the co-chair of the autism subcommittee. And she has a nice little video talking about this new survey, which, by the way, everyone says we're not sure whether more children have autism spectrum disorder or we just have better ways of researching and we're finding more of them. So it's a little bit of an unfair report to say there's more kids than ever that have autism, because it may just be because all of a sudden their research improved somehow and they know what it is. But let's just listen to her for a second to set us all up.
Physicians and primary care providers need to be comfortable in reassuring parents that this is not due to vaccination practice.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention, and none of this, of course, is due to vaccination practice, and physicians need to be comfortable saying this.
And to help them identify resources in their communities for effective treatment and for the support that they need.
So, effective treatment. Now, these things are catching my eye. Let's listen to another little bit of her about screening and effective treatment.
For pediatricians and the primary care providers providing a medical home, it's really very important to pay attention to the Academy of Pediatrics screening recommendations, to do a formal screening evaluation for autism at 18 and 24 months of age. When children fail screening and are referred for a second, more expert diagnosis, either to a developmental and behavioral pediatrician, a child neurologist, or a child psychiatrist, it's really very important that standard diagnostic criteria are used so that we can best serve children, make the most accurate diagnoses, and refer children for effective treatment. Okay,
so a couple things here. I have two analyses of this, and I'll give you the most likely one first, which is just unbelievable. So what you're hearing her say is we have to have across the board, everyone has to screen for autism in the exact same way. Now, I looked up the definition of autism, and this is as defined by the Autism Society of America. I quote, and she just said it actually, autism is a complex developmental disability that typically appears during the first 3 years of life and is the result of a neurological disorder that affects the normal functioning of the brain, impacting development in the areas of social interaction and communication skills. Both children and adults with autism typically show difficulties in verbal and nonverbal communication. But you can't do a CAT scan. You can't take blood. This is as determined by someone who will sit with your child, typically between 18 and 24 months. And here are some of the characteristics they will be looking at. And notice, by the way, that you can fail the autism screening, which I thought was an astounding use of the word. So if you fail, then we have to move over to effective treatment, which I'll get to in a moment. So here are some of the things that are most commonly found characteristics of autism. And autism, by the way, there's something real going on here. I'm not making light of this. But we know it's not vaccines. That's out of the question. The child is unable to coo by 12 months. The child does not point or gesture by 12 months, does not say single words by 16 months, does not say 2 or more words by 24 months, and has lost some of social skills or language abilities. Other characteristics include no fear of danger, over or under sensitivity to pain, may avoid eye contact with you, may prefer to be by him or herself. This is me, by the way. Has difficulty expressing what they want or need. They may try to use gestures, may echo words or phrases, may...
They can't point?
Can't point.
Okay, go on. Yeah. I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense.
May spin him or herself or objects. That's kind of cool.
Took place in the 60s.
Stop spinning. Prolonged repetitive play, may insist on things, routines always being the same. So this sounds like a number of different things.
Yeah, it does.
Well, this is very important because this boils down to the writing at this very moment of the DSM-5. And the DSM-5 is, so we're currently at number 4. DSM-5 is it's the book. It's the Bible on mental disorders. And they have changed something, as I said earlier, they have changed something, and they are now including all other symptoms such as Asperger's, obsessive compulsive disorder, depression, all these different symptoms, and they're putting it all into the autistic spectrum diagnosis. And this is very important. And this comes out in the new year. Because of this, the drug companies will now be able to market drugs, and this comes down to the effective treatment. They'll be able to market drugs based upon symptoms of autism spectrum disorder. So, for instance, we already have this with Alzheimer's. So with Alzheimer's, you can say, well, one of the symptoms of Alzheimer's is you can't tie your shoelaces. So we have a drug for tying your shoelaces. So even though you may not really have autism necessarily, you may have one of the symptoms which we already have a drug for that we can now include as a drug for autism. Are you with me?
It's, yeah.
So some of the newer antipsychotic medications, which so far have been prescribed, what do you call it? Not off book, off label, are...
Right. You explain what off-label is to people that don't know.
Off-label means it was approved by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, for treatment of one particular symptom of something. And they'll say, but, you can use this instead of Viagra because it also works for that. Or, if you have Asperger's, then this antidepressant, you can use that for that. It's not officially approved for, but you can use it off-label for that. So this will now enable the drug companies to prescribe risperidone, Zyprexa, and Geodon for autistic spectrum disorder. And wouldn't you know that Geodon has gone generic, that Zyprexa has gone generic. So my obvious conclusion is that this is taking into account that they're not sure if actually autism and ASD has increased or they just have better research methods, that this is a horrible, horrible way to get their out-of-patent drugs into the system. With the addition that the American Academy of Pediatrics is now recommending autism screening for all children between 18 months and 2 years old. So you have a very good chance that the doctor's going to say, kid can't point, kid's spinning, get him on some drugs. And these drugs are antidepressants.
Spinning, put him on drugs.
They're psychotic drugs, they're psychotropic, they're antipsychotics.
That's really make him nuts.
It's really, really an outrage.
That's a total outrage. It's ridiculous what's going on.
And it's
I think there's also something wrong with the patent system, because the idea, of course, is to